Always great to have Brian Windhorst, ESPN senior NBA writer, joining us on the program. I have, and I got to be in the minority here, Brian. I still think there's a chance that KD stays in Brooklyn. How much of that would be based in reality from what you know?
That's the sort of position that the Nets are now sort of floating out there. They don't like their offers, and it's a complex reason why Durant isn't getting higher offers. He's obviously a very valued player, but there just hasn't been a bidding war developed for him because of various reasons. And so now they are indicating that they're maybe retrenching. And we have a story in the New York Post this morning, quoting a source close to Kyrie Irving that says Kyrie wants to go back to Brooklyn. He never asked for a trade. He's fine with it. I find that story to be credible, at least based on what Kyrie's feeling is now. What we don't have is what Kevin Durant thinks about that possibility, because he started all this when he asked for a trade. My instinct is to say that this is posturing from the Nets, and that they're saying, fine, you won't give us what we want. We'll just keep our guys and we'll play it out and we could beat you anyway. And I have to admit that is a possibility. But again, my instinct is still that it's a posture.
Has Kevin Durant said why he wants out of Brooklyn?
Not publicly. I mean, I've heard some of the reasons he gave privately. I'm not going to say them now because I can't verify them. But if your point is what was like his ironclad good reason, I haven't heard one that I thought was like, okay, that's a good reason.
I just don't understand it. He got a team. Even if Kyrie leaves, you got the coach you wanted. You got your contract. I mean, that was 11 months ago. So I don't know what happened or the realization or the epiphany, but that's what I would love for somebody to ask KD.
And that's maybe one of the reasons why the Nets are taking this position. I think they probably thought, okay, if he doesn't want to be here, fine. We're going to go out and make a Herschel Walker trade. We're going to get picks that people are going to be talking about for years. And we're going to be getting 3 or 4 players that can maybe help us now, even if it's not a superstar. And we're going to be a much more gritty team that may compete for the playoffs and has a great looking future. And that offer didn't come. And so now they're like, well, what would be the harm in trying to run this back? I still think they were so miserable at the end of last year. And this whole thing started because they were like, we can't accept the status quo. And they started out with the hardline negotiating position against Kyrie Irving on a new contract. But I have to say, they were offering him a new contract. Now we can debate. We don't know what that offer was, but Kyrie rejected it. We can debate. Maybe this has happened to you in your career, Dan. I've certainly seen it to other people. Maybe it'll happen to me someday. When you're getting offered a contract, they don't really want you to take, but they say they offer it to you. But they did offer him a contract. So I can't say that the Nets rejected the entire concept of having Kyrie on the team. But it doesn't feel to me like they wanted that scenario to play out again. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
How do these rumors about KD going to Golden State, how does that come to the forefront?
It's a good question. In my case, there's legitimate sources in the league telling me that it's a discussion. I think, first off, I think that the Warriors always believe in open throttle. The Warriors have shown that they don't care what they spend. They spent $350 million this year on this team. And the Warriors have shown that they aren't afraid to do, like, they went out and got Durant in the first place before last season. Now, granted, they didn't know if they had a championship team. They know now they do. They kicked the tires on Bradley Beal. Like, they were like, hey, can we do a deal for Bradley Beal? Beal didn't want to go. There was this period where Westbrook thought Beal might ask for a trade, and Beal didn't. And then Westbrook did. Westbrook got tired of waiting and then asked for a trade out of Washington. And so it's just, this is the way they go about it. I also think it says a lot about Steph Curry, that Steph was willing to subjugate to Durant in the past. And this has been a discussion inside the Warriors organization. Curry has been asked about it, and Curry gave a non-answer, but he didn't shut it down. He didn't say hell no, which he has every right to do. Be like, no, I just won the finals MVP. No, we do not need to do Kevin Durant. We need to bring our team back together and try to repeat. And I think most importantly, forget about sources. Let's just go to Joe Lacob. He does this podcast interview with The Athletic over, I guess it was late last week. A year ago, he did the same, podcast with Tim Kawakami, same host. He trusts him, obviously. And he was asked about Ben Simmons was on the trade block. And he said, what about Ben Simmons? And he basically said, hell no. We're not trading for Ben Simmons. And he was fined $50,000 for saying Ben Simmons' name. But he said, hell no. So let's, again, listen to actions. This time he's asked about Kevin Durant. He never uses the word no. In fact, he won't even say the name Kevin Durant because he's learned you can't say the name or it'll cost you money. So he doesn't say the name, but he doesn't say no. So do I think it's likely? Do I think it's, on the pie chart of things to happen? Do I think it's a big slice? I don't. But I also don't think that I should dismiss it based on what I'm being told.
All right. If you're LeBron James, what are you thinking right now?
So he's got an interesting card in the deck, which is his contract extension. He has never applied contract pressure to the Lakers. He applied contract pressure regularly to the Cavs. He signed 3 contracts over 4 years there. They were always under pressure. He went to Lakers, signed a 4-year deal straight out of the gate. Then 2 years into it, signed an extension with no option in it. So, the Lakers have never had to worry about LeBron James and his contract. Well, now he's on the last year. And he can extend, and he can't even extend until mid-August, which is a sort of a product of the way the pandemic played out, but also convenient for him because he gets to see the Lakers whole offseason basically before he gets to do it. And so the question for him is, of course, he wants the Lakers to improve. Would he like to add Kyrie Irving in place of Russell Westbrook? I don't think that's a controversial statement. Of course he would. Would he prefer Kyrie Irving other than the other 400 players in the league? No, I'm sure there'd be many more players he'd like to play with, but they can't get those guys. They can maybe get Kyrie Irving. So the question is, does he make it an issue in his contract extension talks? I don't know the answer. I don't know if he's decided the answer. If I'm the Lakers, I'm sitting there going, I've made an offer for Kyrie Irving. If they don't like my offer, tough luck, because there's nobody else bidding on him. Why should I increase my offer? The offer is going to be there today. It will still be there in October. It might still be there on January 1st. It might still be there on February 1st. Why should I throw in picks and everything like that? So why should I bid against myself? And I can frankly see that Lakers position. And especially if Kyrie starts at some point to push back and say, now I want out of here, and becomes the miserable person that the Nets didn't want, where they'll take any way to get rid of him. And then you say, well, does LeBron make an issue of that in his contract? I don't think LeBron likes the feeling of being partially blamed for the Russell Westbrook trade. And we've seen a giant game of hot potato, and it was him. No, it was him. No, it was him. No, it was her. But LeBron absolutely had a role in that. And so I'm not sure he wants to be perceived as the guy who's banging down the door. You better trade me. You better get me Kyrie Irving, or else I'm not signing this. I'm not sure that's the way he wants to play it. Even at his age, I'm not sure that's what is on his mind, and we'll have to watch and see how that plays out.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN senior NBA writer. Explain to me what the Jazz are doing.
Rebuilding. And as soon as they made that Royce O'Neal trade, the day Durant asked for a trade and that got buried, that was a complete clarion call, canary in the coal mine, whatever you want to say, what they were doing. And no matter what they've said to other teams, no one has ever not believed they were going to trade both of them if they could. I mean, you're not going to trade them for nothing. And then they get a giant haul for Rudy Gobert, and now they want a giant haul for Donovan Mitchell. And my guess is, and again, let's judge them on their actions. Let's not judge them on their words. Forget what Danny Ainge said publicly. Let's judge on their actions. They have traded two starting players, one of them a star, this offseason, both of them for draft picks. The players that they got back from Minnesota are all role players on expiring contracts. They were going to want draft picks. And, Miami can offer them players and a couple of draft picks. You could do a Donovan Mitchell trade to Brooklyn as part of a 3 or 4 team deal where they would get Ben Simmons back, because Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons can't be on the same team with their contract rules. But again, let's judge it by their actions. Their actions is they want draft picks, and the players will take the player if he's okay, but we want the picks. The Knicks have the picks. And, executives in the league believe that everything that the Jazz are going to do between now and when they trade Donovan Mitchell is an effort to get the Knicks to pay the most premium price.
Yeah, I know that we love for clicks to say the Lakers and Knicks whenever it's, hey, somebody could be traded and somebody could be signed. It's always Knicks and Lakers. I really feel like the Knicks, they seem like they're the real player in here for Donovan Mitchell. And, he was from Greenwich or the Greenwich area, and I don't know if he cares about playing for the Knicks, but, you got Brunson in there. If they keep R.J. Barrett, feels like that they could actually have something there.
Yeah, the Knicks have 8 first-round picks that they're allowed to trade. 4 are their own and 4 are other teams. And again, let's just be honest here. If you're going to trade for a team's draft picks, unprotected picks, the Knicks are a good team to trade for. They have not shown an ability to build a consistent winner. If you owned their draft, now they never get lucky in the lottery, but if you've owned their draft picks for the last 20 years, you'd have like a whole bunch of lottery picks. So again, if you're the Jazz, you're thinking, can we get the Heat involved enough? Can we get the Nets and Suns in a 3-way trade involved enough to get the Knicks to make a crazy bid? They got the Timberwolves to pay a huge price for Gobert, all these unprotected picks and stuff. And nobody's really sure. There were teams who were definitely talking to them about Gobert. There were other teams interested, but no team willing to pay that price. They were able to achieve an incredible premium without getting the bidding war. They might actually get a bidding war for Donovan Mitchell. But I think the Knicks, if they value him, to this level, I think the Knicks can get it done. Now, we can debate on how much better that makes them. I think they missed the play-in tournament by like 6 games last year, if I recall. So even if Donovan Mitchell helps them win 7 more games, which would be a huge number for any player to come in. You bring in LeBron James in his prime, maybe he's winning you 12 more games. To ask for that kind of spread would be outsized even for Donovan Mitchell. But let's just say he is awesome next year and they win 7 more games. He's responsible for 7 more wins. You're still in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Do you trade 5 first-round picks for a player like that? And the answer for the Knicks, who've been searching for a star since Carmelo was in his prime, the answer, Dan, may be yes. And that's what I think the Jazz are going to put them to the test on.
Could you run the Knicks better than the Knicks are being run?
I would take a very fat consulting fee to come in and make suggestions and then leave. But I'll tell you one thing I would instantaneously do is I would move their headquarters out of Westchester, because repeatedly I talk to agents and players who complain about that. I don't all these players want to live in the city, and they've completely taken the advantages of the city out of it. And I don't know how big of a factor it is, but it's a contributing factor to why they've struggled with free agents. But they're a sleeping giant, and it's really unbelievable that the league has had the success it's had when their team in their biggest market has been so freaking bad. And for that stretch in the 2010s, LeBron and Steph Curry carried the NBA. They were getting 30 million viewers for finals games, 30 million, in a league where the Lakers and Knicks were the Lakers, Knicks, and Bulls were missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
Year after year after year. The Knicks not being good has been like a weight on the NBA's ankle. And so if you're the Knicks and you say, well, listen, the top end, if you trade for Donovan Mitchell with Jalen Brunson, maybe you have a great season and you win 48 games. That's a dream. If they could get multiple seasons of mid to high 40 wins and have a chance to win a playoff series, like, is that going to make anybody forget the 70s Knicks who won the titles? No, but it would be a departure from where they've been for 20 years. They've won one playoff series in my adult lifetime, basically.
I think you could run the Knicks better than the Knicks are being run.
I wouldn't take the job. I would take a consulting fee, but I would not take the job. I don't care how much money.
Has LeBron ever yelled at you?
Oh yeah. I mean, yelled, like screamed, like he would scream at his son. No, but he's been mad at me. Let me tell you about the time where my newspaper, I didn't have anything to do with this, but when he bought a house as a rookie in Akron, Ohio, the Akron Beacon Journal, where I worked at the time, ran the address of the house that he had just bought. Now, obviously, it wasn't going to stay secret forever, but not only did they run the address, but they put a graphic map, just in case you wanted to drive by it like that afternoon.
Boy.
Here's how you get there. Let's just say he didn't like that. And there have been times where he's been pretty upset at me. So it happens in the course of, I've seen him through go some of his worst times and some of his best times. So I was there I wasn't in the hospital or anything, but I was there the night his son Bronny was born, and he was having to explain to me, he was leaving training camp, and he had to explain why he was leaving training camp. And an interview was arranged, and he told me, he didn't know his father. And he told me that he was going to give his son his name, which he's later said he's regretted, which is why he goes by Bronny instead of LeBron Jr. And he told me that he was going to be the father to this son that he didn't have. And that's sort of maybe a cliche thing that you do if you grow up without a father, but he's done it. Look at the kind of father he's been to Bronny. And he's dedicating part of his career here to be there so that he can help Bronny potentially get into the NBA and be successful in the NBA. I mean, so that sort of journey, those sorts of things. Yeah, there's been individual moments. I remember going to him after the game 4 of the 2016 finals where the Cavs fell down 3-1. And I remember looking on my phone and because we didn't know in the moment that Draymond had hit LeBron in between the legs there. It was like sort of after the game, people started looking at the video, and the locker room was dead, Dan, dead. And I walked over with the video and showed him on my phone the video. And I remember him watching it and then pushing the scroll bar back and watching it 2 or 3 times. I don't even think he knew that Draymond had hit him there. If he did, he'd forgotten it. And, I just remember like those moments when he was at his lowest and how he was like, wait a minute, something might happen here. So that's the stuff that I remember more than, the stories that I wrote that pissed him off or stuff I said that pissed him off. His relationship with the media has changed a lot over the years. Now he is the media. It's a little bit different. He doesn't quote unquote need the media like he used to. So the relationship is different, but those are the moments I'll remember, stuff like that.
Always great to talk to you, Brian. I know you've been busy. Thank you very much for making time.
Have a great week, Dan.
That's Brian Windhorst, ESPN senior NBA writer.